Okay, we're here with Coach Stratford after a big week this past week and big match against Portland this weekend. Coach, we just want to start with an opening statement about the last couple of games this weekend coming up.
Yeah, pleasing to continue the results and the performances as well. With 2 away games, obviously we stayed on the road for both games, and it is a little different and generally speaking a little more challenging to get the away result. So if you like to avenge the loss against Yale last year, to start things off, and then continue with a good American side in an incredibly hot and humid environment, and get through that test as well, is very, very pleasing. So I'm not only pleased with the results, I'm if you like, pleased that we've been tested a little bit and challenged a little bit and had to suffer in order to get those wins as well, because it says a lot about the character of the team. So to have a team like Portland, obviously a team that's ranked in the top 5 nationally, to come here now, the guys should be energized, excited, and feeling confident about what we can do and what we can show this weekend.
Nick, you have a question? You usually start off.
Appreciate it, Adam. Thanks. I do. Dan, this Portland team good to see, by the way, this Portland team that you're going to face, you played them last year. How different are they from last season, and what do they do well?
It's a lot of returning players. It's a little different because it's players that will have filled a more substantial role this season, but a lot of players that are familiar with the program. I think the identity, from what I've seen so far this season, is very similar to last year. What they do well is attacking transitions. They have some very, very dangerous attacking players. They're very, very fluent, very quick in those attacking positions. So we'll have to be really aware, really alert defensively. Again, they have a lot of individual qualities with their players. So it's a good team. It's a good team for sure. It's a team that's worthy of kind of where they are in the country. But as I said, I think with what we offer and the qualities that we have, we can take a lot of confidence from a good performance last year. We didn't quite get the result at their place, and again, if it's anything like Yale, hopefully avenge the result and be on the right side of it this weekend.
Joe, if you'd like to go ahead.
Dan, going back to your last match against American, you score first, concede your first goal of the year. How important was it to get that response that you got in the second half after conceding for the first time?
Yeah, I don't think we were naive enough to think that we were going to go the entire year without conceding. So a sense of inevitability, perhaps, that we may concede, we may be tied at halftime, even losing at halftime at one point this year. Those days are probably coming, more likely than not, no matter how good we think we might be. So we were a little bit flat in the change rooms at halftime, but really just gave them that sense of reality that there was a very good chance at some point we were going to concede, and that we may well walk into a locker room at halftime tied up, and then obviously have to win a half of football, and that's really what it came down to. Was we had 45 minutes to win that half of football, and that was all we needed to do. What had happened in the first half didn't necessarily matter. So the response was very, very good. I thought we controlled the game really well in the second half. Again, our capacity to limit opportunities for our opponents so far has been very, very good. I think we've defended the penalty area very, very well. Some of the challenges with American were, as I said, beyond just the qualities that they have, because I do think they're a good team. It was the heat, the humidity, and then simply playing 2 games in a short period of time where you're traveling and on the road the entire time. So that can often get the better of you as well. And we needed to be really, really vigilant and disciplined in those moments to not let the fatigue be something that could trip us up on the day. And second half, like I said, we probably managed that better than we did in the first half.
Nick, you have another question?
Dan, what did you feel held you back last year when you guys played at Portland? And how challenging was it to go all the way out there to play that game on the West Coast? Because now they're facing the opposite of that.
Yeah, I don't think there was. I think the way we traveled, the way we prepared, was as we would always hope, as professional as possible in that regard. I really don't think that was the challenge. We made some mistakes. We probably felt like we were at fault for the first goal that we conceded. We knew and will be prepared, I hope, as best as we can, that they do some clever things on set pieces. They have some trick plays, if you want to call them that, where they're very effective on set pieces, and we knew that going into last year, and just had a mental error that led to their second goal. So the game last year probably played out the way that we expected to, or expected it to, should I say. We just weren't on the right side of the result, and often it was an individual error here or a breakdown there that really cost us in some crucial moments. But I have to give credit to Portland where it's due, because they have a habit of being able to capitalize on those moments. I think they're a very prolific team in that regard. They execute very, very well in their attacks, and even if you do limit them to a handful of opportunities, there's still a good chance that they're going to take them, and that's kind of reflected in their expected goals. When we look at what they've done statistically, they outperform their expected goals by nearly half a goal a game. So when a team can do that, and they're scoring one more goal than perhaps they're supposed to every 2 games, that's going to result in a lot of good results. And I don't think I've seen a team with that variance to get into the data points as high as that across the country over the last 2 years. So that's something we'll need to be aware of, is that, they execute well in those transition moments. They do have attacking players that are very, very clinical. So we're going to have to be really, really disciplined and really sharp when it comes to our defensive awareness.
Dan, as a quick follow-up, is there a story behind how this series came about? I mean, it's kind of peculiar to see an East Coast team go up against a West Coast team back-to-back years.
No, I think it was, or I like to think it was 2 good coaches that respected what one another did, and enjoyed the way that each other played, and thought it would be a good idea to play against each other. So, I think we both see each other as a good RPI game. We would like to think that obviously both last year and this year that there's almost nothing to lose. If you're on the wrong side of the result on Saturday, when the season is done, it's not going to be the difference of whether or not you've made the tournament or where you are in the seeding. I think it's still a good RPI game for both teams. So yeah, it was one of those things where we had communicated, and it came to fruition a year ago. We've had some challenges getting them back here within this schedule and the way things worked out, but obviously really pleased that they could make it work, and that we get the home and home. And as I said, hopefully we can avenge last year's loss and come away with a statement win against a top 5 team this weekend.
Mariano, do you have a question?
Yeah, Coach, how you doing? You mentioned the defense before. I wanted to ask you about specifically Max and Carlos, and what is it about them or their skill set, their qualities, that has made the partnership look very effortless and very seamless through 4 games?
Yeah, I think both of them have shown a capacity to defend the penalty area very well. I think any balls into the box they've dealt with incredibly well. Both of them are very, very good in the air. And I think Max is an excellent defender with space down the side as well. He's quick. He covers ground really, really well. And Carlos has shown that he's very, very comfortable on the ball. Important for us in terms of distribution and the way that we like to play and the way we break lines. But has also shown that his ability to cover space and agility is at a good place as well. So I think they've complemented each other fairly well. And again, I think it arguably stood out most in the Cal Baptist game, but just how well they did to stop shots, how little Jackson had to do in that game was such a credit to the two centre backs in front of them, and how much they stopped when it becomes kind of emergency defending, as we refer to it. Obviously, the closer to the goal the ball gets, and the closer to our penalty area the ball gets, the more alert and aware they have to be. And so far, so good in terms of how they've stood up to those tests.
Yeah, go ahead again.
Thanks, Adam. So, Dan, I have a question about motivation. From your perspective as a coach, how often did you remind those guys, if at all, about what happened against Yale going into that game that you guys won? And do you do that again this week in the lead up to a match against a top 5 team that beat you last year?
Yeah, but I think it all falls under the same umbrella of kind of where we've tried to move forward with the program from a year ago. There's only this time last year we were getting to the end of our tether when it came to continuing to talk about statistically the performance, right? Like, we would often be the team that had more possession. We would often be the team that was expected to score more goals than the opponent, yet the result would reflect something different. And at some point I had to change the narrative, and we had to reflect even further inward as to, okay, what really does it come down to? So I think this is just another one of those examples where, yeah, if you looked at the game statistically last year, we certainly deserved to come away with something. Arguably, you know, you play that game 100 times, we were probably more likely to be the outcome was more likely to favor us than it was Portland. And how far have we come in the space of 12 months to make sure that that is the case when we play on Saturday? Now, Portland have probably developed and evolved and improved from a year ago as well. So we know it's not an identical game to last year, but I think this will be a good test as Yale was, and even making sure we got over the line against American, just to show a little bit more of that character, to show a little bit more of that maturity and game management at certain times. We still have a clear identity in terms of how we want to play the game and what our principles are with and without the ball. But at times you have to allow context to play a role, right? Is it 10 minutes left? Is it early in the game? Are we winning? Are we losing? Those things sometimes influence the way that we need to play and the manner in which we need to play. And we did a lot of work from the end of last season to beginning of this one in understanding those nuances and subtleties to how we need to, as I said, show a little bit more maturity and a little bit more cutting edge to make sure we get over the line. I think Yale, the last 15 minutes was a great example of that. And then obviously the response in the second half of American as well. And again, adversity is a true test of where we're at in terms of character and that aspect of things. And those were the first two moments, I would argue, this season where we've had to face a little bit and dig a little deeper. So we got through those challenges, but we anticipate with a top 5 team coming here that there'll be more adverse moments ahead of us. And if it's not Saturday, it'll be Friday when we get to UCF and play another top 10 team. So so far so good as far as how we pass those challenges, but certainly many more to come.
Anybody have any more questions? Or Mariano, go ahead.
Yeah, coach. Obviously last year, a bunch of the games came down to maybe 1 or 2 chances that were missed or not taken, or just something that didn't go your way. Are you surprised now that this year, at least offensively, it seems like everything is just falling like it should, or does it come down to other factors into that have led to a good start through 4 games?
I wouldn't say surprised. I would say I think we continue to expect that, you know, the development of certain players within the squad would provide them the opportunity to have a greater capacity to score or to shine. I think that, you know, the two key ones this year from a year ago, shall we say, would obviously be Marcus Caldera, 5 goals in 4 games, and Yutaro Sukada, that came from obviously a junior college environment where he had to adapt a little bit to the consistent intensity of the game within Division 1, and what was required of him both sides of the ball. And again, he's understood and now understands that that's a bit of a non-negotiable for me as the head coach, and has bought into that side of things. But it's allowed him to shine more in possession and to play with more creative freedom because he has more time on the field. So we're getting more productivity from the both of them because they've had more time to bed into the program and understand the level, the expectations, and then obviously the inner workings of the program from that regard.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're good. Thanks for joining us.